Hello and welcome. Today I'd like to share with you a story from the Dancing Buddha collection titled The Golden Cord. This tale takes us to a serene mountain monastery where a young student learns the profound truth about how we bind ourselves with knots of fear, pain, and resistance, and how we can begin to untie them one by one. As you listen, allow yourself to reflect on the knots in your life. What old beliefs or patterns have you carried, thinking they would protect you? What might it feel like to let them go? This story is not just about a cord. It is a mirror for all of us. Let us begin. Deep in the mountains, where mist draped the treetops and the air hummed with an ancient stillness, a young student sat cross-legged before his master, a venerable monk. The monastery was a haven for seekers, where questions of life, the self, and existence were untangled like the threads of an old tapestry. Today, however, the lesson promised something different. The monk, his robes flowing like liquid amber, produced a golden cord from his satchel. It gleamed in the sunlight streaming through the temple windows, smooth and radiant, as though it had captured the essence of light itself. "Do you see this cord?" the monk began, holding it up for the student to see. "It is supple, flexible. It bends, twists, and flows easily in every direction, like water finding its path." The student nodded, mesmerized by the way the cord danced in the monk's hands. "This cord is like you when you first arrived here, when you were first born," the monk continued. His voice was a soft melody. "Young, open, and curious, you moved through the world with ease, adapting to whatever life presented." The monk then began tying the cord into knots. Slowly, deliberately, he looped and twisted it, forming one knot after another. The once fluid motion became halting and rigid. The cord now tangled, lost its graceful elegance, and the knots crowded together, forming a dense, impenetrable mass. "Look now," the monk said, holding up the knotted cord. "See how it no longer flows. It is burdened, constrained by its own knots. It is no longer free." The student frowned. Why would the cord allow itself to be knotted? Why would it choose this state? "Ah," the monk said, smiling, "this is the question. These knots are like the inflexibilities you have built into your own thinking, your own life. They are born each time you feel discomfort with the energy of another and react by closing yourself off." The student's brow furrowed. "But isn't it natural to protect oneself? To retreat when something feels wrong or overwhelming?" "Indeed," the monk agreed, "it is natural. But observe the consequences. When you tie a knot to escape discomfort, you may feel temporary relief. Yet over time, these knots accumulate. Your world becomes smaller, more rigid and painful." The student reached for the cord, running his fingers over the tight, unyielding knots. "It does seem crowded now," he murmured, "and painful too. But how do I know when I am tying these knots?" "Pain is your signal," the monk said. "When life feels crowded, heavy, or confined, it is a sign that you are clinging to old patterns, old methods that no longer serve you. These knots are your resistance to change, your refusal to adapt when the winds shift." The student sat silently, reflecting. So what must I do? How do I untie these knots? The monk smiled again, a twinkle of mischief in his eyes. You must begin by re-examining your choices. Each knot was tied by you in moments when you thought you were protecting yourself. Now, you must look at these moments again. He handed the golden cord to the student. Start with the first knot. Trace it back to its origin. What was the situation? What were you feeling? What belief did you adopt in that moment? The student took a deep breath and began to work on the first knot. His fingers moved slowly, methodically, as he retraced the knot's loops and twists. I remember, he said after a long pause, I was young, and someone's words stung me. I told myself I would never let anyone hurt me like that again. And so you tied the knot of avoidance, the monk said. You decided to close yourself off rather than face the discomfort of vulnerability. But what happens when you carry that knot into every interaction? The student nodded, his eyes widening with understanding. I see it now. It limits me. It keeps me from connecting, from trusting. One by one, the student untied the knots, each unraveling a choice made out of fear, defensiveness, or past pain. As he did so, he began to repeat quietly, with each knot undone. I am free to release the past and choose peace in the present. The monk's voice rose with gentle encouragement. Yes, with each knot untied, you are choosing a new way. You are embracing change, flexibility, and the freedom to grow. As he worked, the monk spoke. When you were young, you were innocent, untouched by the burdens of the world. But innocence alone is not enough. True freedom comes through transformation, from understanding your knots and choosing a new way to weave your life. The student paused, the last knot now undone. The golden cord lay in his lap, shiny as it had been before, free of its burdens. He looked up at the monk, tears glistening in his eyes. I feel free, he said softly. The monk nodded. Freedom is not the absence of challenges. It is the ability to face them with openness, without tying yourself into knots. Each moment offers a choice, to resist and knot yourself, or to adapt and remain free. You are not bound by your past. The student, with new light in his eyes, placed his hand over his heart and whispered the second affirmation. I trust in my ability to adapt and flow with life's energies. The monk smiled, his heart warm with pride. You have untied the knots. Now you will see the world with the clarity of a cord unburdened, able to move in every direction, free and flexible, as you were in the beginning. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the temple in hues of gold and crimson, the monk and the student sat in silence, the golden cord glimmering between them, a symbol of freedom, transformation, and the boundless potential within every soul. Thank you for listening to The Golden Cord. Life, much like the golden cord in this story, is meant to flow, flexible, adaptable, and free. But as we navigate our experiences, we sometimes tie ourselves into knots without even realizing it. These knots, while born out of self-protection, can confine us and keep us from living life fully. The beautiful lesson here is that we hold the power to untie these knots. By revisiting our past choices with compassion, we can let go of what no longer serves us and embrace the freedom to grow and adapt. As we close, I invite you to reflect. What is one knot you have been carrying? How might you begin to untie it? Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story and explore the journey of untangling life's knots. If this message resonates with you and you are seeking personal support, we offer customized hypnotherapy sessions via Zoom to help you find clarity, freedom, and balance. Visit us at www.lightmanor.ca to learn more and book your session. We would be honored to guide you on your path.